Howdy, folks. K1GMM Steve in the mountains of Vermont. Excuse me, frog in my throat. We'll see how good we do here. Snowing over here as well as the UK after talking to Stu, M0MT. Very similar conditions. Yuck. Anyways, we are going to be running through some SDR stuff. We're going to play SDR today. I get the impression that I skip over a lot of important things like fundamentals when I'm talking about this stuff. And you know what they say about assumptions? And I know this is a broken record. A lot of people have heard me say this before, but they are the mother of all you-know-whats. So when you guys are watching my streams and when I'm working events, I'm running almost always some form of SDR software. And I've had people contact me and say, how do you do this? What is that? Believe it or not, there's hams. There are hams out there that really have never played with this stuff before. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at ground zero. Hey, Chris. And we're going to work our way through basically discussing what is this stuff. I'm going to go through the devices and yada, 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 and we're going to get into all that. Now, at the end, I'm going to bring on the Zello channel. I'm going to light that up. And anybody who wants to come in and ask questions, I'm going to include this in the stream at the end. This is not a chat session. Just exchange formalities and hit me with whatever you got. We're going to keep it moving pretty fast. I don't want it to turn into a cluster. So if you would like to do that, you can find the channel on Zello, Ham Radio Anonymous. Just go to Zello, look under channels, search under channels, Ham Radio Anonymous, all separate words, and I will authorize you. And I'll I'll check it right when I light it up at the end of what I'm going to present, and then I'll see if anybody has any questions. If they don't, I'll close the stream. Okay. Hey, Alex, how's it going? I'll check into the chat here quick, and let's get right to it. So, close that, and let me get over to desktop left. So, this is part one in the series, SDR Primer, I'm calling it. So, when you hear people refer to SDR, basically, what is it? It's basically a radio in which some or all of the... my screen is flipping. Okay, what is it? Radio in which some or all of the physical layer functions are software defined. Now, a lot of people will ask, what is software defined? Well, that basically means that the demodulators and all this other stuff that are involved in making this stuff work, presenting the RF spectrum and hearing the audio is done through software as opposed to a traditional receiver. Like just take, for example, an FM AM radio. Well, that's all transistorized. This is handled by software. So that's what a software-defined radio is. It's basically just a receiver. That's all it is. But the biggest difference is that it is software controlled instead of just standalone, like a transistor radio or whatever. And I always watch your stream, check in quick. Why do you not turn on the sound in the mixer to listen to the sound as it sounds on the air in 3 kilohertz? Believe it or not, this is the actual audio that's being piped out to my rigs. This is the exact same audio you hear on the rigs. Let me put it in the chat, guys, before I continue any further, and then I'm going to get moving here. So let me put in Zello channel. Zello channel. And no quotation marks. Put it in exactly like this. make sure I got that right. I was supposed to bring my glasses down and I can't find them. I thought I left them down here, but they are nowhere to be found. Enter. There you go. All right. Again, the Zello channel, only come in if you have a question or a comment regarding SDR. Relevant comment. This is not going to be a rag chew. This is strictly for the benefit of people who would like to learn about this stuff and what I do here. All right. We covered what it is. How can this be used, right? In other words, you may ask, Steve, what on earth would I use this for? Well, I'll tell you. From a purely fundamental standpoint, remember, these devices were originally intended to be used as a receiver only. All right. They were just a receiver. Now, I work a lot of events and a lot of contest stuff like that where it's possible to actually be a shortwave listener and to log the contacts, even though you're never actually making a contact, and actually submit a log as an SWL, shortwave listener. Now, if you're a shortwave listener, these things are revolutionary from an SWL standpoint. I'll explain why. On the truck, this is what I'm thinking about doing. They have a SDR hand, it fits in the palm of your hand, an SDR receiver. It's got the software built into it with a display on the front. It's about like this. It's kind of like the same size as a vector net, one of the new VNAs, vector network analyzer. And don't ask me what that is. You can look it up online. I'm not talking about that right now, but it's roughly the same size. So it's got the software and everything you need built into the actual software-defined radio device. So it's a standalone device. It's got VFO control. It has full control over all the parameters, noise reduction, AGC, you name it, and I'll get into those later. Everything that makes SDR technology truly remarkable, you can get in the palm of your hand. Now, what I'm thinking about doing, I have a friend, KB2NYC, who ordered one, and I'm thinking about ordering one as well to put it in the truck. Well, I have a mobile whip with dedicated Z-winding coils, which sit underneath the whip. It's a Serial 5000. I've used that from usually from 15 meters all the way to 80 meters, based upon what coil I have underneath it. And it even hears surprisingly well on 80. Does it hear as good as a 136-foot dipole? No, but it hears pretty darn good. So I don't talk on the radio. I had the 857 in the truck for a while, and I just don't talk on it. Hardly ever. I think I made 4 QSOs in like 4 months on that thing. I just listen. So I thought, well, why am I putting a $700, $800, $900 radio rig in the truck waiting to be stolen when I can just throw something like this in there in the palm of my hand and plug it into the head unit of the truck, connect it to the mobile whip in the back, and I can listen, which I do most. I listen 99.9999% of the time when I'm in the truck. Very cool. When I'm done, unplug it, literally stick it in my pocket and get out of the truck and leave. So that's one use. Shortwave listening, yeah, great for that. Like I said in the text up there, you can use it as a receiver only, as a front end in place of a conventional transceiver's front end. That's the other use for it, which I'll get into that. In other words, you can use one to actually replace the receiver on the transceiver you're using. In other words, you'd only be using that said transceiver as the PA. In other words, that's all you'd be using it for, and that's what I use it for on the 7300. Is just strictly, the 7300 is now nothing but an amplifier, PA. I talk into it, it spits it out via RF. I do not use the front end. I shouldn't say that. I do use it sometimes, and I will be discussing this later as well. As you can tell, this is a loaded topic. Now, you can also use it, and here's what I was referring to as far as the 7300. You can also use it as a control surface for your existing transceiver's front end. And I'll explain exactly how that will happen. Hopefully, you guys can make sense of all this. Okay, so we're moving into the components required, and I'm going to throw some stuff at you. This would be for SWL only, shortwave listening. And the components required are slightly different if you're going to interface this to an existing transceiver. So we're going to deal with using it as a receiver only first. Okay, so you need the SDR receiver, you need some kind of an antenna, you need coax from the antenna to the SDR receiver, and any appropriate cabling to get the SDR receiver, the info from the receiver to the computer, appropriate connectors. Now you can use either a Raspberry Pi running Raspbian, or you can use a regular Windows computer. Actually, you can use pretty much anything just for receiving. I believe there's software. Don't ask me about Mac. I know somebody's going to say, what about Mac? I have no idea about Mac. I know there's stuff for Mac. And this is just, remember, this is a primer. I'm not going to get into how to connect things and everything else. That's coming later. All right. So now we jump over to the components required to actually interface it to a transceiver. Keep in mind, these were never designed and never created to do this to begin with. Does it work? Yes. Is it quirky? Sometimes. So what you need, basically the same stuff. You need an SDR receiver. You need antenna, some form of antenna, which if you have a transceiver, you most likely have an antenna for it, because a transceiver is worthless without an antenna, right? You need your coax and cabling. You can use a Raspberry Pi, a computer, whatever. Now, here's the catch. To interface this to a conventional transceiver, you will need to grab the IF out of the transceiver, either via modification to the internals of the transceiver, or, which is this is the easy route. It's a little bit more expensive in some cases, but it works really good. And as long as you have cat control of that transceiver, in other words, let's say you use it on FT8, you use it with HRD, other digital modes. If you have cat control with that transceiver, you're good to go. So you can pick up what's called an MFJ 1708B SDR switch. What that does is that when you key your radio, it interrupts the SDR receiver, okay? And what that does is it prevents RF, actual wattage, TX power, from going out and into your SDR receiver, which will pretty much wave it bye-bye. So that's something you need. Do not just connect it in line and then key that rig up. Nothing good is going to happen there. So you need some kind of interface, be it an IF interface, which a lot of, like an ICOM 7300 has what's called the RX 7300 mod. It's literally plug and play. You drop it in. It takes longer to get the cover off than to plug this in. Puts a couple RCAs out the back, and you actually interface the SDR dongle right to the tube jacks that are installed in the RF deck. I believe there's boards and stuff for other radios like the 857. I was not willing to do that. This was just going with the 1708 was an easier route. All right, you will need a cat cable, some kind of cat control from your computer to your transceiver. Some rigs use a standard USB. Some rigs you gotta jump through hoops. I'm all modern here. I know the 857, you can use what's called an FTDI chipset. It's like a serial port emulator type thing, cable, and works brilliant. And I can't remember exactly who makes it, but it is literally bomb-proof, plug and play. So you will need that. You need the appropriate drivers. Always install your drivers prior to plugging in the cable. Okay. Follow the directions, and that will give you control over the software. It will basically syncs up your software to the radio, because this is the goal here. If you're using it as a front end of a transceiver, you not only have to get the IF out of the radio, right? to the SDR radio, the external dongle. Let's just call it a dongle. But you have to have control over it as well via computer. Because remember, all this is done via computer. So yes, you will need some form of a computer. All right. What I'm going to do now, I think, is I'm just going to throw some things at you. These are some options, and these are some things I've come across from personal experience, and they give you some options for radios as far as SDR radios. So let me get over here. All right. I will post a link to this in the description once the video goes online and the stream is over. This is a phenomenal review. The SWLing Post. I follow these guys. They do a good job. Now here I run, and I'm not selling you, I'm not pushing you into any direction as far as what dongle to get. You know I don't do that. I can just tell you my experiences, okay? So this particular review is on the RSP Duo, the SDR Play RSP Duo. Now these are roughly about, I think, about $270. Don't hold me to that. You'd have to check for yourself. Not particularly cheap, but this review is really phenomenal because he compares it actually to like the RSP 1A, I think it's the RSP 2 Pro, and if I'm not mistaken, the RSP DX. I don't know if he mentioned the RSP DX or not. These range, I noticed you can still get an RSP 1A, even though I think on SDR Play's website, let's go over here, products. I thought that, okay, the RSP2, I believe, is discontinued. So these are the current, yes, these are continued products. The RSP1, RSP2, and the RSP2 Pro are discontinued currently. You may be able to get them, but probably not worth it at this point. He compares the RSP Duo to the 1A, and I believe the RSP2 Pro, which is now discontinued. Basically, you guys are going to have to read it for yourself, but basically my conclusion is if you don't need a second tuner, which this, the RSP Duo has 2 tuners built into it. It's the one I use. And if you don't have a need for diversity reception, I would say don't waste your money. I would say if you have the money, go ahead and do it, because 2 is always better than 1. I know that's incredibly fundamental, but the RSP-1A is a very good, probably a great SDR front end. If you want a good one, plan on spending at least $100. All right, I believe these are about 120 US dollars, 119 US right now currently. The RSP DX I think is very good. The nice part about the RSP Duo is it's in a metal box. It's very heavy, it feels well built, and I suspect there's very good shielding with it. Another advantage to the RSP Duo is that it's got 2 tuners. You can run 2 independent tuners simultaneously, but beware, tuner 2. The second tuner is not protected. If you key up the radio, you will need an additional interrupt on that input. If you have a resonant antenna, I wouldn't even do it if it wasn't resonant on the band you're working on the primary tuner. So it complicates things a little bit. It's not necessary, but if you're plagued with noise and you want to try and null out the noise and you got room for, let's say you've got a dipole up and you want to run like a vertical, for the same band or an end fed, you can be fairly successful in nulling out the noise. You can also run 2 independent tuners, listen to 2 bands at once. But remember, when you key up on your transceiver, you're going to need to interrupt the signal on both tuners. And an MFJ 1708B switch only handles 1 tuner at a time, so you'll need 2. That's $200. You see where I'm going? So the price starts going up. All right, enough on the SDR Play stuff. You can go to something from AirSpy. I have AirSpy HF Plus. I have 2 of them here. I think the Discovery is a very good unit. I'm not sure, but I can tell you I put the RSP receiver, the SDR play, up against the HF Plus. They're both very similar, but the difference is that the HF Plus has a proprietary noise reduction algorithm running in this device. And I thought it was activated through the software. It is not. It is a very quiet receiver. In my opinion, if you were going to do something like this, for another $70, I just get the RSP Duo, and you got 2 receivers. And I'm not saying that the RSP Duo is a slouch. It's not. It's a superb front end. I can't tell the difference. It's just that this has noise reduction built into it. So is it going to wipe out like? Well, I have noticed on it compared with SDR console, noise that I hear on SDR Uno and the RSP receiver is not present with that AirSpy HF Plus and SDR console up to a certain point. I think once it gets to a certain point, nothing's going to stop it. So I figured I'd just throw that at you guys. Just some options there. I'm not going to cover the cheap ones. You can go with an RTL SDR. I believe that's only 10 meters and up. If you want HF, you're going to have to put, I can't remember what it is, an up converter, down converter. What would that be? Up converter? I can't remember. Excuse me. And so, you're kind of adding to it. Also, one huge drawback to the HF Plus, this is why I would shy away from it. It does not cover 6 meters. It covers, maybe 50 kilohertz to 31 megahertz. And then there's a gap. There's no 6 meter coverage. And then it covers 2 meters. It does not cover UHF. However, the Duo right here, the Duo covers 1 kilohertz to 2 gigahertz with 10 megahertz of bandwidth. Also, the HF Plus is very limited on bandwidth. It's kind of a dinosaur, to be honest with you. It's just, nah. Is it worth the money? Probably not at this point. This thing will go all the way to 2 gigahertz. This does everything. So let's say you like, you really like working 2 meter sideband, right? Or you like running a lot of 2 meter FT8 or 6 meter, or you like 2 meter sideband, anything like that. This is going to fit the bill. Even the RSP-1A will fit the bill, I believe. Let me go back and look at the coverage on the RSP-1A. I thought it was pretty huge. 1 kilohertz, 2 gigahertz, 10 megahertz visible bandwidth for $120. See, that's what I'm saying. This is a great buy for what you get. And from what I read in that review on SWL, it's negligible. The difference in receive between this and the RSP Duo, just using the primary receiver. It's tough to see. Most likely you'd never see it on the pan adapter. You may hear it a little bit in the audio, but I don't know if it's worth it, because it's literally $150 more for that RSP Duo. Again, RSP Duo, if you need 2 receivers, yeah. Most people don't. All right, on to the last one. This is a great one. These are not cheap. They are superb front ends, the Hack RF, and I believe you can actually use them to transmit. This goes from 1 megahertz to 6 gigahertz. Yeah, these things are freaking monsters, man. Expensive. I think they're probably in the $300 and something range. Not sure if anybody ever want to spend that. I know someone who has one, loves it to death. Okay, moving on. So you guys write down any questions you may have and hit me, because I will look through the chat and I will light up Zello at the end. Okay, let's look at the benefits. What's the benefit to using something like this. Aside from the fact that you have a standalone receiver that's very cost effective and what I would consider world class, these are not like an AM/FM transistor radio. I will tell you right now, they're not. You gain control over the signals in the band that you can't get control over with even a conventional transceiver. It's all about control. If that's what you're looking for quietness on receive, control the AGC, noise reduction, filter width. Oh yeah, these things will rock and roll. And I'm talking massive filter width, bandwidth adjustments, massive. Even far beyond what a conventional transceiver will do. So if you're listening to AM on a conventional transceiver and you got someone running 20 kilohertz wide, not a problem on one of these. So I know that's a little extreme, but hey. So what's the benefit of using one of these as a front end of your transceiver? Most of us have heard of Flex, Anons, Experts, Sun SDRs. Okay, these are what I call true SDR transceivers. A 7300, a Yaesu is not what I call true SDR. What is it, the 101D? I think it's like a hybrid, right, or something. Don't hold me to that. 7300, 7610, SDR. So what? The problem with those is it offers you virtually no control over the parameters that you get control of by running a true SDR. It's the same, it's still software defined, but you don't have the control. So that's what these things do. They give you a lot of control. So a Flex, a non-expert, Sun SDR, these all give you tremendous control over the IF, as well as audio, over the spectrum. And they give you a listening experience that is unrivaled. In other words, when you have a 20 to 40 over signal and you're listening to them, you can adjust these with no effect on the audio so that when someone drops the key, you hear nothing but a pin drop in the room. It's not your grandfather's radio. They're very, very different. You got quietness control and also visual reference. And I'm going to get into this. I'm going to get into the two uses that I use for these. And I'm not talking about just listening. These systems are piggybacked onto the 7300. In other words, I use these SDR radios as the front end of the 7300. And I'll show you the differences. Many of you have seen this in my streams, but I will explain them to you shortly. So yeah, you get the benefits of a full-blown SDR rig without the price tag. Of course, you're talking Flex, a non-expert, Sun SDR. You're talking, $2,000 to $4,000, $5,000 for these rigs, and you can get into something like this, piggybacked onto an old Kenwood Yaesu or ICOM or Tentec or whatever you got that has rig control capability for just $200 or $300. And you have all of the benefits of those full-blown rigs with the exception of one, and that is your TX bandwidth. In other words, when you key your transceiver, the TX bandwidth will still be limited to whatever the rig is capable of. So if you're looking to do ESSB work or wide AM, you're still going to be limited to whatever that transceiver is capable of transmitting at. So if it's like an ICOM 2.8 kilohertz, that's what you're going to be stuck with. That's where the Flex and non-expert, Sun SDRs, and yada, 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 the dedicated full-blown SDRs, the real SDRs, that's what they can do that we can't. By piggybacking one of these dongles onto a conventional transceiver, but I had to weigh that. I had to weigh the cost of buying a dedicated full-blown SDR, which I did. I bought an Anon, but it was very reasonably priced. It was $1,500, and I actually used that as strictly the ESSB rig for running, 4 kilohertz or more. I don't use it primarily for DXing or contesting or anything like that. from my understanding, I mean, that was like a $4,000 radio when it hit the market in 2015. So I considered that a good deal. Why do I have it? It's literally, it's stupid, really. If $1,500 just to run 4 kilohertz wide and wider on TX, is it worth it? Only an individual can answer that. It depends on what you're into in the hobby. So, what are the negatives? I covered this a little bit in the beginning. Remember that these devices were never intended to be piggybacked, connected to a transceiver and used as a front end. They were designed to be standalone devices that are used strictly to listen. They can be quirky and they can be glitchy at times. It's just the nature of the beast. Do you get that with the other SDR, full-blown SDR rigs, Flex, Anon, Expert, Sun, and the other ones? Sometimes. Sometimes you get some foo bars in there, some quirks that happen, but for the most part, everything is integrated into one box. The PA, the receiver, everything. So they're just designed to work together in harmony. These not so much. Quirkiness can be a little weird. There is latency. The latency is something that a lot of people have a hard time with at first, but once you get used to it, it's about I was saying a half second, and it's not that long, but it's enough latency to make breaking a pileup. If someone is taking a call, right, in a pileup, and they're taking the calls at the beginning of the pileup, that is a little tough because of the latency. So you have to factor in human response. What your ears are hearing, remember, it's like a quarter second late. The person stopped talking a quarter second before you heard them stop talking. So the pileup ensues, and now you've got at least half a second before you can hit the key. Now you're late. You see where I'm going? So that's what I mean. They take a little bit of getting used to. And your best bet in that situation, in that environment, is to watch the meter on the transceiver itself. When you see the meter take a dump, you punch the key just as it's dropping, and then you'll be on it. And you'll still hear the person completing the CQ call, but they've already finished in real time. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's about it. I mean, those are primarily the quirks. Let's see. So what I'm going to do now is I've already showed you the spy server. Okay, there's a spy server video on my channel. Now that is a classic situation of somebody who wants to do just shortwave listening. Download SDR Sharp, get yourself a dongle, light it up, and you can listen all over the bands. Get yourself an antenna, whatever it may be, and have at it. All right, that's just for listening. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you a couple different configurations. Show you a couple different ones, and let me get this out of here. I got to light everything up, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. 2 different configurations you can use. All right, this is tied to a transceiver. Both of them are very usable and very beneficial, but they're just used for 2 different purposes. So I think my cat is messed up. Nope, it's not on. So, all right, let me go get that. Got to get my serial ports running. And that's up and going. So let's get over here. So that I don't even know if there'll be any signals on this band right now. We're kind of towards the end of the day. So what is that? Okay. Let me see if I can get rid of this. It's never happened before. Always something happens, you know what I mean? You always got to be, okay, hide automatically, hide taskbar. multiple displays, show taskbar. Okay. Bye-bye. See ya. All right. So this is SDR Uno. All right. This is the software that comes with the RSP series, or you can use with the RSP series receivers. Now you can use SDR console as well. I believe there's what's called an EXTIO. I believe. Don't hold me to this, but most all these dongles run on what's called an EXTIO, and oftentimes you have to get that from the manufacturer. You can download it from their website or wherever. Just type in, let's say, RSP Duo EXTIO, and it'll probably take you to a place where you can download that, and you have to drop it into the directory, the parent directory of the software you're using. Bang, boom, done. It'll give you the option to select that particular receiver, hit start or play, and away it goes. So, okay, so this right here is what I use, one of the things I use as a standalone front end to the 7300. This I use in place of the receiver on the 7300. So this is the RSP Duo, and there are some signals here, so I can so we can just click here. Hopefully there's nobody swearing, which I seriously doubt there is. And I will explain this, exactly what's happening. So I'm going to have to get the volume up. Oh, that's Canadian. All right, let's take a spin down.
I put oil in, and it was August, later part of August. I got it up to 950 gallons in the tank, according to my measuring stick.
Okay.
I better measure because Elsie's been keeping it up around.
So what you're listening to right there is actually the RSP Duo. It's not the 7300. So what you can do, let me unmute it here.
I have 527 gallons out of 950 since August.
What you have,
hot water. I said, wow.
What you have is the ability to control the AGC, which is right here. So you can really open it up if you have a really weak signal.
Because I had lots of wood. And in fact, it's going now. Shack is just about 74. I got to cut way down because it's
so you can close it down
and looking good.
And dramatically drop the background noise.
No, it's coming down pretty strong.
Your bandwidth can be controlled up here by expanding this out,
and I noticed when I went to the mail,
or you can do it from here. So you can pinch it.
Between the sublimation of the sun and settling, it's down to about
so
5, maybe.
What I want you to pay attention to, and this is for the people that have never seen this before.
I guess we got to expect it.
So what I want you to pay attention to is you have your AGC control. I have mine set to manual all the time because I'm a control freak. I don't like the automatic settings. So what it does is it gives you a point and click ability to go anywhere on the band. So let's say you zoom out on the band and you can see all the signals. And let's scroll down to about 3600 in the phone portion. We got 4 megahertz right here. So this is all the activity on the band. So when you click here on any of these, it will take the 7300 there. That's what I mean about having it tied to the radio. So it's very quick and painless. And you can see what's happening on the band. All right. That's one way to go about doing it. Here is the other way. So I'm going to close this. And unfortunately, I don't have a camera on the 7300, and I should have done that. So what you can use is, let's pull open HRD. Okay. Okay, so, and what we're going to do is we're going to open HDSDR. And I think I'm going to have to change. No, I'm not going to have to change. What is running? Oh, unable to find receiver. All right, so let me close this. I'll be right back. Let's try this one more time. Da-da-da-da-da. Let's see if it finds it. So I'm going to open HD SDR. There it is. Okay, so it looks like it found it. And it looks like my bandwidth is foobarred. Zoom. And something is definitely wrong here. Wow, making a liar out of me. Yeah, see, I had the other HF Plus. EXTIO hardware not ready. Oh, you tool. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I forgot the HF Plus is actually plugged into the Raspberry Pi. Oh, anyways, so I'll walk through this with you anyways, man. Yeah, that's messed up. It's not, I need it plugged into this computer. I'm certainly not going to rip it out of the back of the Pi because I'm going to have to restart the whole thing. So anyways, so let me see if this is synced. So it is synced. So this is changing the radio, 3881. You'll see 3881 right here. So what I use this for, see, I don't monitor this. This is nothing but a control surface. So I'll go through the band and find the frequencies, the stations I want to work, and I'll just click on them. You know, I'll go through the band. Now, you guys have seen me, anyone who's frequented the channel have seen me do this. I just did this during the UBA contest before I had that failure on the 7300. This is what I was using. So the reason why I run HRD underneath it, now the SDR dongle, I'm not actually listening to this. I'm actually listening to the front end, the actual receiver on my transceiver, the 7300. You can set this up the same way. You can use it strictly as a control surface. So you can point and click and go through the band. And HRD, I have all of my parameters down here for the adjustments on the 7300. So I've got an IF shift. I've got the twin PBTs inside and outside. I've got my filter bandwidth. And when I change these, it changes the 7300 as well. So I never have to touch the 7300 ever. It's all on this screen. So that's kind of one of those things that you'd have to decide which direction you'd want to go. Do you want it just as a control surface, or do you want it as a standalone front end to replace the front end of your transceiver? So I hope I covered pretty much everything. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to rip through the chat room. All right, so let me kill this. You're gone. You're gone. And I'm going to move the chat over on to the big screen. Okay, and I will try to answer any questions. I will show you if possible. It's Maniac time. What's up, Brent? How you doing? Let's see. How to properly configure the modulation. Sun SDR. Now, keep in mind, guys. All right, let me just throw this out there. I don't know anything about the Sun SDRs or the Flexes. I have an Anon, and the Anon is an incredibly complex transceiver, and I've had it since last June, and I know nothing about it. It's horrible, man. They are a nightmare. They're good, but they're not for the faint of heart. I have a friend, NA SDR. He runs a Sun, I believe, SDR. He loves the thing. He's got, I think he's got the 100-watt version. I can't remember what the exact model number is. Let's see. Okay, Chris, you got an RTL SDR. So what I would do is I would go to my previous post video on the spy server. Type in spy server on my channel. I think it's 1 or 2 videos back or whatever. And there is a link in the description on how to download the older versions of SDR Sharp. And if you don't want to use the new one, you need to go type in RTL SDR setup, type that in, and you'll be walked through how to get the drivers properly installed for the RTL SDR. The RTL SDR will hear on HF, but it's going to be seriously attenuated. Mine do, but they're really not designed on anything to go lower than 28 megahertz, I think, is the cutoff on those things. So 10 meters and up, sure. Just make yourself up a little antenna and have at it. Let's see. So Elevator Man. Let me run through Randy. Let me see how many more questions there are before I get to the bottom. Okay, SDR Sharp. Cannot see mouse. Don't pull a Capone. I'm in the process there, Gary. Oh my God, that's hilarious. All right. So that's you, Gary, that answered that. So how they connect to the pan adapter is, let me relaunch this. And this has a lot to do with software setup, so I'm really not going to go into it too deep. What happened? Oh, that's right. Hang on, guys. Well, I don't really need this for this application, for this explanation. Okay, so you got your pan adapter regardless of what you're using, right? Well, when you set your pan, you'll plug the SDR receiver into your computer. Some receivers, like the AirSpy, do not require a driver. All right, you just plug them in and they work, especially on Windows 10. Just run it. I think I may have had to do that on Windows 7. I can't remember. I think I had to do an install a driver on Windows 7. The RSP Duo, yes, you do need the driver, or the RSP series. Just follow the directions. Once the driver is installed, you light up the software and you have to tell the software what to use. So it's all done in the software, what device you can use. So you'll see, like, for example, an SDR Uno, which is what this is, all your receivers available will pop up in this window. So you just select that receiver. Now, SDR Uno is a little weird in the sense that they recommend, instead of just lighting it up, when it first lights up, you want to actually click on the pan adapter several kilohertz. I usually click, 30, 40 kilohertz away, and then light it up. I'm not exactly sure what that does. Now, the antenna's not plugged in right now, so that's why you're not seeing anything there. So I can plug it in for you. Hold on. Okay, so don't forget, one thing you have to do, just remember, one thing I can recommend, just remember, big crash. This stuff is created by humans. Humans are stupid. All right. You have to tell this stuff what to do. You can't just, you can't just like install it and it's just going to do everything for you. It doesn't work like that. You have to tell it what to do. So the initial setup is learning the software is a little grueling. Like, let me show you. This SDR Uno is a wicked powerful piece of software. I really like it. My preference is actually SDR Console. This is Console, and I don't think it's going to light up because I need to select. So, see what I mean? You have to tell it what to do. Now, SDR Console will light up on the last radio used. So if I close it after selecting and starting the radio, once I close it and I light it up again, it'll always be there as long as it's plugged into the computer. So my HF Plus isn't plugged in. This I actually did have the Anon running on it. This is the E4000 tuner, the Newelec, which I love to death, that thing. Use that for satellite work, and the RSP Duo. So this is a Duo. Select it. Select your bandwidth. It's running at what do we got? Well, I can go out to 10 megahertz if I want, but let's do 6 megahertz. Hit start. And there we are. And I can reel this in. So I'm going to listen 3600 to, let's go all the way out to 4. So I'll grab the entire 80 meter spectrum. So let's grab, let's see, who do you want to listen to? Anybody on 3969? No. Looks like there's a couple AM stations.
As I told you, that when you get into that, I know the Anons can do it. And I assume the Flex can do it also, but I'm not sure about that. But I was disappointed when I was making recordings here and I couldn't play them back.
Okay. So this is piggybacked onto the 7300 as well. Now you'll notice, and I know I'm getting into the software side of things, but it is valid. It is valid. You'll notice these spots right here. See these on the pan adapter? The super cool thing about SDR Console is once you activate the cluster and tell it which cluster to look at, you go into View and you make sure Markers is highlighted, and it's basically a cluster overlay. So any band you're on, anybody who's been spotted on the cluster will pop onto your pan adapter, and all you have to do is go there. You just click on it, boom, takes the radio there, takes the pan adapter there, you're done. Of course, this band is closed right now for DX. All right. So let's see here.
GW82HNQ.
So,
all right, fine business on the boiler there. That's the way I feel. I think this.
So if you want to listen,
okay. It's just the electronic.
So if you have someone you're listening to, right, and you want the receiver really quiet, of course you got your noise reductions. NR3 and SDR Console is the best one. It's the one I use all the time. You notice it's on. You know how most noise reductions have that warbly, watery effect? SDR Console does a really good job with that and suppressing noise while not having that gross warbly, that like water running down a drain effect. I know you've all heard it. And of course you got your AGCs right here. The most important function for SDR, the most powerful weapon you've got as far as listening goes. So what I will do is I will show you conventional transceiver.
It was almost $900, you know. So I'm thinking I don't want to go through that again. I might look for something
So
new.
that's AGC
but
wide
the more
open.
you look at new things, the less they stand up. Some of the older gear is much more dependable in some ways. Anyhow, say hello to Paul there, but he's really very, very light. I heard he was out plowing, I think, his neighbors, and he came in, he's full of snow, but very light. If you have an amplifier, that would really make a difference for him.
You know, and not only that, Louis, to buy the phone,
Hey, Louis.
the total price of the phone's $200.
Hey, Louis.
I remember when you guys got them. Yeah. You
Talk to
can't
these
argue
guys
with
once
that.
in a while on 1.5. Works exactly the same. You want to change filter width? Just drag it. Now, here's the catch with console.
Like that, we're paying it over 24 months. So, I mean, $15 a month per phone, that's not bad.
Okay, here's the catch with console. Simon Brown foobarred it. You cannot create filter widths in excess of 4 kilohertz in the new versions of SDR console. So I have older versions. If anybody'd like to contact me, I will send you a link to them. What you can do is you can use an older version of console, and this is an old version. This is 3.014, and this works plenty good. And what you can do, so let's say you want your filter widths. Let's say you're listening, let's say you got your DX filters for 2.2, 2.4 to 2.8 kilohertz, right? And contest filter widths. Those are your starting points. You can click here, it'll change your filter width. Let's say you want to listen, you're listening to some Voodoo or ESSB guys or AM, and you want some custom filter widths. So what you can do is you can click on these 3 buttons here. You can click add, title it. Let's say you want a filter from, let's say you want I don't know, let's say 5 kilohertz. 5 kilohertz filter width. Put in, let's say, I don't know, 20 or 30. Let's say 30 on the bottom. And put in 5,000. And hit OK. And that will go in to your filter list and hit OK here, and you'll see 5 kilohertz pop in here. I'm not going to do it because I really don't need it. But so did 5 kilohertz go in? It did. So I'm going to remove that. And you've got your you got all your custom filter widths in here. Very cool, ain't it? So that's basically it. All right. Shoot. I closed the chat, guys. So let me get back to the chat here. And I'll get back to the chat, and then I'm going to fire up Zello, see if anybody hits me with a question. I will try and answer it, or comment if you have any comment. I'm sure I missed some things. I know I did, because this is such a huge subject. But I wanted to give you basically a synopsis of what this stuff is all about. When you hear people talk about it, at least you'll know. What am I looking for? Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So, hold down, let me kill that. And pop out chat. Close this. Alrighty. Okay. Hey, Tom. How's it going? Andy? Okay, SDR Sharp. SDR Sharp is good for standalone, Chris, and they have a ton of aftermarket plugins for that. I don't know if they're aftermarket, but there's a ton of plugins. I don't know anything about it because all I use it for is a spy server and for listening. But there's all kinds of stuff you can do with it, supposedly. But you probably know more about it than I do at this point. Big screen you plug into the computer or the device. So to use a big screen, nope, Gary, everything is on the computer. Everything's done by the computer. So you use your existing computer. Everything is projected on your display. It's just software. Picture it as just the same thing as if you were running Microsoft Office. Same thing. Same thing if you're using a browser. You just launch the software, and it just pops onto the screen. So everything is controlled via mouse, point and click on the stream. Driver or HDMI in the dongle, no. There's no driver or HDMI in the dongle itself. No, there is not. However, some dongles require a driver, just like you'd install a printer, or just like you'd install any other device on the computer. You may need the appropriate driver to make the device work. So drop a link to them in here. Really bad aim. How you doing? What are you referring to? Drop a link to them. What are them? And I'll see if I can help you out with that. So what I'm going to do, okay. Where are you? Oops. Let's go. And let's do solo. Okay, let me get trusted. How do I get you trusted? It's not giving me an option on the Windows platform to get you guys trusted. Bear with me. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of you untrusted. All right, I got to make this happen. Oh, no. Okay, the filters. You know what I can do, really bad aim? I can't do that, but what I can do is I can upload my configuration file for, let me write this down. I can upload my configuration file for SDR console. And you can drag and drop that right into the roaming directory. So you go to folders, and you know how when you right click, you have the option to show hidden files. You want to show hidden files. Navigate to you as a user, and go to application data, app data. And then you'll see roaming. Click on roaming, and basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to overwrite. Now, beware, this is going to overwrite everything. All of that stuff will go in there, even if you're using the newest version of SDR console. It should put them in there for you. I know it did it for me. It worked on mine, but it's going to overwrite all of your parameters that you have set. So I don't know if you're really going to want to do that. But I can config file. And what I can do is I can post a link for the config file. I'll upload it to Google Drive. And so anybody contacts me, my email is good on QRZ. Just shoot me an email and I'll forward you a direct link, and you can download it and jam it into the roaming directory. Let's see, config file, SDR, console. I got to make sure I'll write it down because I'll never remember. All right, for some reason, I can't make these guys trusted, and I can do it on my phone. Stupid. Doesn't make any sense, man. Oh, wait. There we go. I guess I got to expand it. There we go. We're getting there. Trust. Okay. So let me make sure I got everybody. So it looks like everybody's there. All right, that sound good, Gary? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up Zello. And let me, somebody come back, whoever's on Zello, come back and let me know they can hear me, because there's no point in me doing this if you can't. So I'm going to get off the screen. All right, here we go. We'll give her a run. All right, everybody, anybody who can hear me, just jump on in. First one gets the key wins. Let me know you can hear me okay.
No problem. I got you. KB2112.
Okay, guys, don't forget to, anybody who's going to jump in on Zello, mute the audio on the stream. That's going to totally foobar everything. So if you're going to participate in the Zello chat quick here, go ahead, and the stupid thing is, oh no. Oh, I forgot. It's on the same key. Bupkis.
Wow, a lot of latency on YouTube, huh? Unbelievable.
Oh yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to hold the PTT down. So actually, can I lock it? There we go. I can lock it. All right. I can't use the hotkey because it's the same hotkey I forgot that puts the stream into loop. So the software into loop through the camera. So that ain't going to work. All right. Anybody got any questions, comments? Hit me. First one gets the key wins. Crickets.
I think that guy was looking for the older version of the software, Steve, not just the filters. You said you were going to give a link to the older software.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he said the filters. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Let's see. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to post them publicly, so anybody who wants them, hit me on really bad aim. Are you a ham radio operator? Just throw your call sign in there. I know who you are. You've been in here a lot, but put your call sign in. Let me know you're a ham radio operator, and I know you can get my email via QRC. Thanks, Gary, for that. Anybody got anything? Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and close it down. I think I don't know, Gary. What do you think? Is there anything I missed?
N1XJI, how about SDR Sharp? I have a new RTL SDR.
Hey, Chris. I don't. Okay, the RTL SDR. These things can be a flippin' nightmare. First question is, have you actually got it running in SDR Sharp, or haven't you tried it yet?
Yes, I have .NET running, but I do not have a good antenna.
Okay, that's going to be the problem. That's the problem. You got to come up with some type of antenna. What I might do if I were you, I know where you're at, what your situation is. I would grab any old piece of wire, and I would run a piece of wire around the circumference of your ceiling. It doesn't matter if you tape it up. Run it across the tops of your pictures. Who cares? The biggest piece of wire you can get. Just throw it up there. If you don't have a way to tune it, don't worry about it. Just start playing with it. That's what I would do, Chris. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Steve. I'll catch up with you at a different time. N1XJI.
Okay, Chris, no problem. Yeah, it's all about the antenna, right, buddy? These are no good if you have a garbage antenna, for sure. Your receive is only going to be as good as the antenna. There's some good projects. Do some reading. I would recommend doing some reading. I've never done this before. It'd be worth trying. Look for, and hey, Lester, how you doing? I see you pop in there. Look online. Do a search for SDR receive antennas. Type that in. just for giggles. People are so creative, dude. They'll probably come up. You'll come up with something. I have a feeling. Anybody else? Go ahead.
So Steve, how do you interface the receiver with the antenna tuner? How does that work?
Okay. I heard you mention that this morning, Gary. Everything functions exactly the same. Exactly the same. So let's say you were using that SDR switch, right? Well, in theory, you have to place the antenna, the tuner at the final stage, right? So that would have to go on the final stage. So your coax comes out of the back of your rig. Would it have to go after the? Let me think about that for a second. After the switch. Probably. See, when you're in TX, no. When you're in TX, it's going to bypass anyways. It's going to spit fire out through there. Oh no, it would have to go. No, it's going to have to go inside. That is a really good question. Thinking. I have to put it down on paper. Are you talking about an internal ATU or you're talking about an external, correct? A manual? Oh no, you run an AT1000, right, or something?
Well, that's what I run, but I mean, it's not what I have to run. If there's a better way to do this, but that has to be manually played with, and I mean, it could go in auto mode, but at times it has to be manually played with and stuff. How do you do it? How do you tune to all the different frequencies and bands that you go to? How does it work? Do you do it manually or do you do it automatically?
Well, I do it manually, but the principle is still the same. See, I haven't gotten that far yet with the 857. Now, the 857, which is how you would most likely be running something like this, I'm assuming. You wouldn't try to grab the IF out of the radio, crack the radio open, and start hacking away in there. I'm assuming. Maybe you would. If you're going to run like an SDR switch, right? So the radio comes straight into the SDR switch. The antenna goes into in the antenna port of the SDR switch. Then the dongle, the SDR radio, is plugged into the SDR switch. It has 3 antenna connections. So by default, the SDR radio is receiving signal from your antenna. But the minute you hit the TX, the minute you go into TX, it interrupts that and bypasses the SDR radio, preventing it from being damaged, right? So in my mind, you could place that tuner even in front of it. So let's say you're not running an amplifier, right? And you're just barefoot. You can place that tuner, run out of your rig into your tuner, and then into the SDR switch, right? Or you could run it post switch. In other words, between the switch and the actual antenna connection. I'm not exactly sure because it's going to affect it either way. You see what I'm saying? It's gonna tune. The antenna is tuned regardless of where you put it in there. You kind of see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to think if there's a better place to put it. If it's preferred to go inside between the rig and the switch, or between the switch and the antenna. Either way, it's going to be interrupted on TX and it's going to pass it through. You see what I'm saying? Either way, it's not going to damage the dongle. It's just trying to figure out which one works best. It's going to tune it in either place. Actually, you know what, to be honest with you? No, you have to place it. You have to place it post-switch, pre-antenna. So that's right, because you want it to tune. If you place it between your rig and the switch, the antenna is not going to be tuned on the receiver, on the SDR. Nope, just answered that. All right. I had to think through it, dude. I'm sorry. So if you did it that way, you'd have to place the tuner. So you'd go from your rig to the switch. Your SDR is plugged into the switch. Then where the antenna port is, you'd come out of that into your tuner, and then from your tuner to your antenna. You understand? We got it.
There in the end.
Right. So the thing is, in order to tune, you have to throw a carrier, and that's part of the issue. So you're using this as a receiver. So how do you tune your antenna on receive? I mean, that's what I'm not getting exactly. Or do you have to key up and tune your antenna to that part of the band where you want to receive?
I think Steve just jumped in there too. I'll put it over to you, Steve. Go ahead and grab it and stick it back to Gary. That's a Pandora's box. So what I use to tune my antenna is what's called an MFJ matchmaker. It's called a 212 matchmaker. And what it does is it allows me to tune the antennas using I don't think the right word is a noise bridge, but maybe similar, I guess. So basically, I tune my antennas on the dip. So yeah, let me pop this on quick. I'll pop it back on and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So it's carrierless tuning. So let's go over to the pan adapter and I will start this. What it prevents is you never stress the finals of the rig, and it can all be tuned with no carrier, nothing. So I'll pick a spot in the band. Let's say I want to tune right here, right? So if I whip out to this other camera, I don't know which camera. No, that one ain't going to do it. So let's go out to that one. You won't be able to see it. See this red button right there? That's the MFJ matchmaker. It's a little box. It's like probably about that wide. It kind of looks like an ARB 704, right? And what you do is you press that button and you go over to the pan adapter. Now this is what it sounds like. I'll unmute it. So that's what it sounds like. So basically what I do is I take the tuner and I'll zero it out. So I'll roll the inductor until I get to, I see it dip on the screen. See where it dips? And then I'll load it. And then I'll just basically tune for maximum dip right there. And that's it. And there was no carrier, there was no nothing. Now, that's how I do it. And that's how I tune the magnetic loop. Especially a magnetic loop because it's so high Q. Even if you roll the power all the way back, you're pushing a very high SWR to get that tuned. Even if you're a little bit off, right? So I always use that instead of stressing the finals. It's not particularly cheap. It's like $100 for that thing, but I love it because it never doesn't throw ever any interference on the band. So now, let me kill this. So if you're stuck with a traditional, like you key up on whatever AM, most people use a CW tone. I do that sometimes. It's the same thing, dude. The minute that rig goes into any form of TX, it'll kick the relay over and it'll take that SDR receiver out of the equation. So the minute you hit that with modulation or carrier or anything, it bypasses. That's the beauty of that switch. It bypasses the SDR, preventing damage. So you can tune it normal, just like you normally do. If that's the way you tune things, yeah, don't change anything. You'll be fine.
Okay, another quick question, Steve. For software, I use SDR Sharp. Is there another better one that you could recommend?
Yes. I can tell you it's problematic SDR console is probably the best, and you can use it just to receive. You don't have to use SDR sharp. I would make sure the driver, which obviously the driver is installed. Okay, the driver is installed, and I would download HD SDR. HD SDR. I'll put it in the chat, and that was the one. That was the one that I was using as a control surface. That's a great pan adapter, man. I love that pan adapter, and it's great to monitor with. If you'll have to get the look for the EXTIO for the RTL SDR. Download that, drop that into the directory of HD SDR on the computer. It should light up, and you should have the option to choose that. It should see it there, and then just light it up. That software is fairly complex. But if you're running SDR Sharp, you'll be able to run that. That's, to be honest, console is the best, but with the RTL SDR, it's problematic sometimes. Sometimes it gets really hateful. When I got the RTL SDR to actually work the first time, I did it by accident. I fussed with it for hours and couldn't get it. And then all of a sudden I lit it up and it worked. I could never figure out how I got it to work. So, yeah. That's on you.
All right, thank you, Steve. N1XJI.
Yeah, hi, Steve. G0OGS. I don't know if you can hear me in here. First time I've used this thing, go.
Steve-O, how you doing, man? Oh, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. You got anything for the group? Any thoughts or anything? And really nice to hear you, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. It's really good to jump in and say a big hello. I've been meaning to do it for quite a while, to be honest. But you know, it's always it's about the timing, yeah. Well, quick look. I use the Sun by Expert Electronics, you know, the Russian SDR. I use the SDR2 Pro, so I'm fully SDR here, and I'm just having a real good time with it all. I was just wanting to confer with what you're saying about where to put the tuner or the matchbox. I concur at the end of it. You need antenna, matchbox, switch box. Then you got your split down to your main radio and into your SDR, because obviously you want to be able to, the SDR wants the benefit of the tune, so that the receiver's in there. And if you just wanted to generally receive around without the TX hanging around, just spin the knobs and just wait for the noise level to get up there.
That's a good idea.
That's normally a way of doing it anyway. You know yourself. You know, you spin the knobs on the matchbox, and you get a reasonable increase in signal. You're not normally that far away. Go.
Yeah, thanks for that, man. I should, instead of trying to work through it in my mind, because I've never had to do that before, I should have just opened it up, and you would have answered that for me in a lot less time. I had to work through it in my mind. No, you're absolutely 100% right. You want the antenna matched before it hits any of the systems, be it the transceiver or the SDR. Because remember, guys, if you're running an outboard SDR, it's not the same as the front end of your. It has nothing to do with, well, aside if you take the IF out of it, yeah, it has to do with the front end of your transceiver. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to do it that way. I was just thinking to myself, I thought, okay, if I were to do that, and I had I got a manual tuner here, what I'd probably do is, most people do this anyways, is they mark the tuner. They have a little cheat sheet so they know where to roll the inductor and roughly where to set the capacitance on it. You know, to get it close. You don't need it exact. Just if it's roughly in the ballpark. If you're not transmitting on it, who cares, right? And that's the beautiful thing. I am not a big vertical fan because of noise. I can tell you this NFET is noisy, but I'll tell you, here's good. On 20 meters, if you go on the SPI server, was it? No, whoever was on it is off now. But, you know, this NFET is, I think there's one band, 30 meters, that it's like 3-to-1 on. Or more. It may even be a little bit more than that. But it's under 2-to-1 from, what was it? 3.4 something all the way to 2 meters, with 30 meters being the redheaded stepchild. It's under 2-to-1 across everything, and it's flat across a lot of the bands. Now, the difference between 2-to-1 and flat is nothing on receive. You're not going to hear it. So, you know, for a receive antenna, heck yeah. You know, somebody could put up a much shorter version. Instead of grabbing 80, you could have 40 through 6 or something. You know, that's a fairly short antenna. And this is actually running it as an inverted L right now. So that would make a great receive option. And it doesn't even have to be up high. I mean, my God, you could take it and run it right around the perimeter, use the rain gutters, for crying out loud. You see where I'm going? There's a lot of options if you want to use it just on receive. Yeah, the Sun, those are nice rigs, aren't they? Any SDR Rick has one. He just bought it, I don't know, a couple months ago. Loves the thing. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, Steve, got all that. Yeah, well, quick one on the NFEDs. You know, it seems to me that the NFED antennas are really taking off. Not because they're the one to have, it's just because they tick so many, it ticks so many boxes. I mean, it's so easy to deploy. In fact, I'm using one here. I don't, when I hear people talk about NFEDs, you know, I'm thinking, well, hang on a bit, what NFED are you using? I mean, I just use a monobanders. I've just made a simple coil, copper coil. In fact, if you look on my QRZ page, the contraption, it looks like something you should be bootlegging with, but yeah, it's just a simple coil and a capacitor in parallel. And I like it because it's DC ground. The more wire you get out there, the more static. Well, that's what I've seen here. I've got about 40 meters of wire going out this thing. But electrically, it's DC straight down the ground. And because I'm playing with half waves, voltage fed antennas, you ain't really got to worry too much about having a grounding system. In fact, just one ground rod straight in there, and wow, it's away. It really does the job. I mean, voltage fed antennas don't need much of a radial system, not to be confused with quarter waves. But yeah, quickly on the Sun, I don't know. I mean, I just love the damn thing. It's great. I've only got the 20-watt version, but I run it with a solid state amplifier from Finland called the Juma PA1000. 10 watts in gives 1 kW out. So we've only allowed 400 watts over here. So, you know, I'm putting 3 or 4 watts in and I'm giving the full legal. But it's not just that. The whole thing, the reception on it is absolutely good. Hey, I was wondering, have you seen that Dave Kennett video, SDR School? It really is a good informative video for anybody who wants to catch up on SDR, Steve, yeah?
No, I haven't. Thanks for throwing that in. What's it called? You want to do me a favor and jam that? Are you watching the stream right now? Can you jam that? Because instead of me asking you and trying to get the spelling and everything, can you just stick that in the chat? Because that's what this is. This is an information superhighway right now. So it would be very beneficial to the guys that are perusing the chat. You know, they can go and expand upon or probably get better information. And yeah, I know a lot of guys that run these end feds, and good God, they work all over the place on these things. And I've worked, I don't even know how many guys on 80 meters on these things, and they love them to death. Then they work amazingly well. The first time I put it up, it was last year. I had it up for a while, and it's about in the same configuration it was last year. It terminates at about 100 feet in the air. And a friend of mine told me, he says, check that thing on 2 meters. And I checked it on 2 meters. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. I can actually transmit on that. It's flat, unreadable SWR. Now you'd think, okay, so what? Dummy load is 50 ohms. You ought to freaking hear the FM broadcast on that thing, dude. It is unflippin' real. FM broadcast on that. Now, I don't know if it has something to do with height or what's going on there, but you wouldn't think a 136.6 NFED with a 49-1 on it would hear anything on 2 meters, but that thing is ridiculous on 2 meters. One of the best antennas I've ever had. So SDR School in 3 parts by Dave Kennett. Perfect. All right, let me break with Steve here, and I'm going to get out of here if there's no other questions and comments regarding, unless you have more, Steve, on the SDR stuff, go ahead. And after you comment, I'll just let it hang, and somebody else wants to grab it, go. K1 GMM.
Yeah, okay, Steve. This is also Steve. G0 OGS in beautiful South Staffordshire, -1 degrees there. But, I can live with that. No, seriously, I urge anyone who's thinking about trying to get into SDR. I forget his call sign. He's got a few years, but he's really... This guy, it's an amateur production, but it looks like a professional production the way he's done it. It's in 3 parts, and he goes through the process, and he doesn't try and talk too clever. He really puts it over. The one thing I do like that he does say is, if I've not convinced you about SDR, how's about more radio for less money? Well, I think that's about it for me. Hey, great hooking up with you. Hope we can have a chat with you in the future. And I'll just drop one more thing in. I'm missing the wig, Steve. Catch you later.
See you, Steve. Thanks for the info, man. And all good stuff. Anybody else before I rip the plug out of the wall?
Yeah, Steve. What kind of wire does it matter?
Heck no. Doesn't matter. For receive, any wire you can find. 22 gauge. Anything that, anything you can use. Doesn't matter. The only thing you'll need is something to get it into the SDR. So you will most likely need, of course, you've got connectors and blah, blah, blah. You'll need, those are usually SMA, so you will need an SMA to probably 239, and you will need something to get it, like you could solder in a couple lengths of wire into 259. I mean, you could, if you want to do it right, you can get it, you can build loading coils and do all that stuff. Personally, that's what I would do, but you're going to need something to analyze it with, to dial it in. You know what I'm saying? And that's a little bit complicated. And there you go, Gary. Anything, speaker wire, geez, anything you got. Chris, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just have to find one of those banana to BNC connector type things, which I know I have none of. So I'll catch up with you later, Steve. Have a good night.
All right, man. We'll catch you later. Chris, what you're looking at right there is a 40-meter band on that NFED. It ain't bad, dude. It's not bad. It's pretty flipping good. Don't transmit on it. I could if I wanted to. I think I can put about 500 into that on that 49-1. Or maybe a little bit more. I wouldn't do it, but I think I could, but I don't need to. So, all right. We'll see you later. Last call for non-alcohol.
I just want to say that there's a lot of information here, and it just hits you so fast. I'm going to have to go back and watch your video from the beginning a couple of times just to see what I missed. KB2 NYC, thanks for all you do, Steve.
All right. Okay. Yeah, and y'all can find me on Zello. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'll try and help any way I can. K5ZR, thank you much, brother. And thanks for everybody for stopping in. This was a good group in here. And I will say, and I'll wrap it all up, it's not for everybody. But it's one of those things where once you start playing in this arena, it's going to be very, very difficult to let go of. I'm just warning you. It may be frustrating, and it may get under your skin, and you may want to break things at some point, but just keep at it. You'll get it. I'm going to kill Zello. You guys can go ahead and kill Zello, and I'm going to get ready to shut the stream down here.
Hey, Steve, there's about a 10 to 15 second delay on the Zoom. I mean, yeah, on the YouTube. So I don't know what you were referring, but if you could redo it so I could hear it on the stream, that would be great. N1XJI, clear.
I'm not sure. Redo what, Chris? Okay. Anyways, not sure what Chris is referring to specifically. But anyways, guys, we'll see you later. I'm out of here. Boy, that was a long one, wasn't it? Hour and a half. Time goes by. Yeah. I think it's time to pull the plug. What do you guys think? We'll see you later. 7-3 K1GMM in the ditch. We'll see you all around. Woohoo! SDR.